Good afternoon. My name's Amanda Bennett. This is Glenn McCrickard, and we're the pastors here at the La Verne Church of the Brethren. On behalf of Charlotte's family, we would like to welcome you to this celebration of life for Charlotte Neill, beloved wife, mother, grandmother, friend. Thanks for choosing to be here, whether you're here in person or watching online, to show your love and support for the family and to celebrate her precious life. Charlotte was a member of the La Verne Church of the Brethren and active here for over 40 years before she moved away from the area. And though she lived at a distance in more recent years, the relationships that she cultivated here were deeply rooted and held in gratitude. As we share today in this time of communal grief and celebration together, it's my hope that we'll experience the comfort and love of God. Nothing can prepare us for the loss of our loved ones, and so I encourage you to give yourself permission to feel whatever emotion arises for you today, as God embraces each of us exactly where we are. As we move into a time of remembrance, will you please join me in prayer? Gracious and loving God, we give thanks for this time together among friends, family, and loved ones to celebrate and remember the life of Charlotte Neill. We hold gratitude for the way she touched so many lives through her positivity, her bubbly and friendly spirit, and the profound love she both shared with others and received in return. We give thanks for the way she lit up a room with the light that she carried within. We give thanks that she made the world a better place in her family, among her friends, and in her community. God of peace, as we gather today, may we sense your spirit in our midst even now. May your spirit offer comfort and rest as we celebrate a life well lived and grieve our loss. May we find safety and warmth in your divine presence and in the care of this community gathered here today. And we give thanks that we don't have to choose between gratitude and grief, that in your presence we can hold both together. God of comfort, as we celebrate Charlotte's life and grieve our loss, we seek strength and comfort from one another and from you. Envelop Roger and Tom and all who grieve this day with your tender care. Help us find peace in knowing that Charlotte has joined the vastness of your love. And may that same love surround each of us this day and in the days to come. In the name of the one who is love, we pray. Amen. And now I invite you to hear these words by poet A.L. Frank in his poem, The Rose Beyond the Wall. Near a shady wall, a rose once grew, budded and blossomed in God's free light, watered and fed by the morning dew, shedding its sweetness day and night. As it grew and blossomed fair and tall, slowly rising to loftier height, it came to a crevice in the wall, through which there shone a beam of light. Onward it crept with added strength, with never a thought of fear or pride. It followed the light through the crevice's length and unfolded itself on the other side. The light, the dew, the broadening view were found the same as they were before, and it lost itself in beauties anew, breathing its fragrance more and more. Shall claim of death cause us to grieve and make our courage faint and fall? Nay, let us faith and hope receive. The rose still grows beyond the wall, scattering fragrance far and wide, just as it did in days of yore, just as it did on the other side, just as it will forevermore.
Continuing with the theme of poetry and flowers, I'm going to sing the next hymn in the blue hymnal 614, but if you would find it meaningful to see the words, I invite you to look at that, and also if you'd like to sing along as well. I was Charlotte's neighbor just 2 doors down, so I often saw her gardening in a way to save the back, down on her hands and knees. And we shared love for flowers, also perhaps animosity toward oxalis. I learned the official name for that bright yellow sweet flower in the spring from Charlotte, who taught me that it was oxalis. But the one really good thing she gave to my garden was tarragon. I had come upon some beautiful smelling tarragon one day, and she brought me a whole clump of it to have for my garden as well. So anyway, more poetry and more flowers. This is 614.
There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a dawn in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past will come the future, what it holds a mystery, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. In our end is our beginning, in our time infinity, in our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity, in our death a resurrection, at the last a victory, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see, unrevealed until its season, something yet alone which God alone can see.
Thank you, Sean. In every life, there are stories that shine, moments of laughter, kindness, and love that stays with us. Today, we honor Charlotte by remembering those moments. Every memory is a shared thread in the tapestry of her life, woven with joy, compassion, and grace. At this time, Tom and Roger are going to share a bit about their mother, followed by Dina Gilbert, each sharing stories and reflections as to how Charlotte touched their lives. So I invite you to listen, and may their words bring comfort, gratitude, and the quiet assurance that love endures.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice of you all to be here. We really appreciate it, to have you here celebrating Mom. I just want to share some personal stories about what Mom meant to me. She was smart, she was warm, she was funny, she was friendly, and overall, she was just a great person. She was also a grandmother, she was a sister-in-law, a mother-in-law, she was a friend, a neighbor, and an aunt. And I just want to tell you a few stories about her today. The first one, she used to take us to the beach when we were young kids. And of course, any woman who's in her mid-20s with 2 young kids is going to find a way to get away from home and occupy her kids. And we'd go there, we would dig holes, we would make sandcastles, we'd go in the waves, and we'd play games. And one of my favorite games was the game Battleship. Hopefully you all know what that is. But that was one of my favorites. And one day, we went to the beach, and I was playing Battleship with my mom, and I was on fire. I couldn't lose. I won game after game after game after game. And she started to wonder what was going on, and finally, I felt guilty, and I told her that she was wearing sunglasses, and every time she looked down, I could see her board. So don't judge me. I was probably about 8 years old when that happened. And I did confess. And being the kind of mom that she is, she didn't get mad, she didn't scold me. She just laughed and thought it was funny. But one thing she never did again was wear sunglasses when we played Battleship together. As young kids also, we went to school. And one thing I remember about my mom was she would walk me to class on the first day up until 4th or 5th grade before I became too cool to be walked to school by my mom. And lunches, simple stuff, but meaningful to me. We got a basic lunch. She'd pack us a sandwich, an apple. We'd get some chips and a cookie. Standard stuff. And she did that all the way through high school. But the one thing that made it special was the napkin. Every day, I would get my lunch, I would open up the bag, and I would pull out a napkin. And there was a note from my mom that would say, "I love you," or "Have a good day," or "I hope your test goes well." Or for those of you that know her well, she'd draw a heart on the napkin. My mom loved hearts. And that was, as a kid, you don't really give it much thought, but as I was reflecting back on my mom, I thought that was some really next level mom stuff. And I'm just very thankful for that. And after I got out of high school, I started learning how to fly, and I became a pilot. And with that job, you're traveling, and you are doing a certain amount of moving. And I've lived in Las Vegas, Chicago, Wisconsin. I currently am in Vancouver, Washington with my wife, Christine, and hopefully that's where I'm going to stay. My mom was there every single time I moved. She was packing boxes, she was unpacking boxes, she was painting, she was doing wallpaper, all the things that nobody really wants to do. The only thing she didn't do was move boxes. That was my dad's job and mine. But when you think about how many times I moved and how far across the country that I moved, it really was something for her to be willing to come out every single time, not because she had to, but because she wanted to help, because she was my mom. And when I was on the road, there were times that she and my dad would come visit me in certain places. I can remember an Easter in Boston. I was on a layover in the city, and they flew from Los Angeles to Boston just to be with me and make sure that I wasn't alone on Easter. They did the same thing in Denver a couple years later on a holiday, which was nice. And if I had a layover in Los Angeles, they didn't care what time of day it was. I would call them and say, "Hey, Mom and Dad, I'm on a layover in Manhattan Beach." And they would get in their car at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and drive from La Verne to Manhattan Beach. And for all of you who are from here, you can probably imagine what that was like. But that was the kind of dedication that my mom had to my brother and I. And I just want to express my gratitude to my mother for raising me, caring for me, loving me. And I hope she's up there listening when I say, "Thank you, Mom. I love you." Tom.
That was amazing, Raj. I remember the battleship story of the sunglasses. I wasn't there, but I look around this room, and as we're thinking of thoughts and memories of Charlotte, it's just, these are shared memories. I look out in this audience here, and Dina Gilbert, and Lynn Gilbert, and the Poochies. Sadly, Lynn Calkins can't be here. My cousins, and my aunt, and my Neill family. And these are all people that were with Charlotte in different times, in different places. The Cords, sorry I left you guys out, at the raising our kids together. But all these shared memories are just so strong, and I can't thank you enough for being here. So I wrote something for my mom that I think just kind of really sums it up with her. And she would say a lot, welcome, come in and make yourself at home. She was a true homemaker and welcoming spirit for a lot of people, especially here in La Verne when they were here. And these weren't really just words, they were a way of her life, of this welcoming spirit that she was. She just had a welcoming, remarkable way of making people feel welcome, like I just said. Whether gathering family around the table for Thanksgivings, we would have these Thanksgivings with 30 people or more. And she welcomed in Japanese exchange students, which yesterday we went through all her photos, and so it was a big trip down memory lane yesterday. I'm sure Roger can agree to that. As many of you might not know, she graduated from University of La Verne, Magna Cum Laude, which Roger and I thought was pretty amazing and cool because we knew she was super smart. And as Sean, you said, she was a master gardener. Maria and she helped us reshape our garden back in January. So up to, the recent months, she knew pretty much every plant, and not just the plant, she knew it in Latin too. Well, no, she didn't know in Latin, but she would know the right soil, where it should be planted, the right amount of sunlight. It was truly amazing. And going through stuff with her, just in January, I found her tests from Mount SAC, which is Mount San Antonio right here, and test after test, perfect score, A+. And these weren't just tests on like, what is this flower and what's that? It was really an intrinsic study into being a master gardener, and it just was amazing. So she was proud of that to the end, to just show me those. Charlotte approached life with curiosity and enthusiasm, along with my dad, who many of you knew. They traveled to over 40 countries together, and embracing new cultures, experiences, and friendships around the world. My dad, he often had a camera, but Mom was more intrinsic in getting to know people and having that touch, even though my dad was too. And then at home, like I said, her gardening, Esther Webb, who can't be here, I'll be reading a message from her in a minute. She redid her whole front yard in English garden style. And to this day, it's still alive and thriving. Just so many great memories of Mom, and I'm glad we can share it with you because you knew her well, many of you. She raised raised, or at least took care of two great kids, Alex and Hannah, who I think are in the back there, and was a big part of their lives. And as we went through photos yesterday, we've got a lot of photos to share. So what I think I'll do now is read this letter from Esther Webb, who couldn't be here, but was really eager for me to share this with everyone here. So Esther was a person that my dad and her husband Sid traveled with to England and to just pretty much everywhere, it seems. But and a very good friend. They came out and visited a while ago. So this is a letter from Esther Webb. My husband, Sid Webb, and I live in Lexington, Kentucky. We knew Charlotte and Bill Neill for over 50 years. Wow. We met as young couples in 1968. Charlotte was a young mother wrangling two rambunctious little boys. I guess that's us. And was not amused at the idea of pulling up roots, leaving family and friends in beautiful California to drive a station wagon to godforsaken Kentucky. Her words, not mine. But you probably know how pervasive Bill could be. When I was a little kid and we were traveling out there, my parents always laughed about this. They woke me up, we were in Kentucky, and I looked out the window, I said, "This ain't McTucky, there's no bucket in the sky." So to this day, or they always thought that was the funniest thing. I was 5 years old, so. Fortunately for us, Charlotte liked to cook and entertain. She introduced her friends in Kentucky Fried Chicken land to tacos, tortillas, and burritos, and even fish tacos. But we four decided we weren't ready to give up our friendship. We agreed we would take turns driving or flying annually to visit each other, and we did. When the Neills would visit, Charlotte would insist on taking drives in the countryside, where she loved petting the horses and tickling baby goats. Such good memories. I adored their charming cottage with wraparound porch here in La Verne, and gazebo, tiny fountains, and walkways among the gorgeous bed flowers. Charlotte had a designer's eye for decor, and her interior was so comfortable and inviting. I had never heard of a master gardener, as I talked about, until I met Charlotte. Once I expressed envy for her flower beds, she revisited and had taken the master gardener course. The last time we visited La Verne, upon hearing Bill was gravely ill, Charlotte and I would sit outside amid her flowers and talk and plan. Knowing the end was near with Bill, Charlotte was calm and stalwart. She was fortunate to have two kind and loving sons, another shout out, sorry, and their wonderful extended families with talented and successful grandchildren to help her move forward. I'd like to imagine Charlotte and Bill together somewhere in a blissful, flower-filled hereafter. Maybe someday Sid, her husband, and I can join them on that great road trip. So, that is the letter. And Dina, many of you know Lynn Calkins, who isn't able to be here. But she wrote a wonderful tribute to Mom, and I think it would be great to hear from you, Dina. Thanks for coming up.
Hi, everyone. I'm pleased to be able to remember Charlotte today and read Lynn's tribute to her. And first, I just want to say that our families have known each other since they met in college. So Tom and Roger, I like to say, I've known you since before I was born, which is true. And Charlotte, I love you. And I wore my fancy shoes today just for you. Charlotte loved shoes. This is a tribute from her good friend, Lynn Calkins. Memories of Charlotte. Hello, everyone. My name is Lynn Calkins. It is my deep regret that I'm unable to be with you in person to honor the life of my friend, Charlotte May Hunter Neill. Unfortunately, I was diagnosed with ALS bulbar type in March of 2024 and can no longer speak, so it's best if my thoughts are read aloud by someone else. Thank you. Charlotte and I were best friends for 63 years, even though distance and circumstances could sometimes make that challenging, like when she and her family moved to Kentucky, or when I moved south to Encinitas in North County, San Diego. Somehow, we always managed to stay close and connected. In many ways, we grew up together, although we were 22 and would have considered ourselves mature adults when we each birthed our first babies that summer of 1963. Looking back now, in my early 80s, I realize we were just babies ourselves. We knew each other already, but we became close, fast friends as we waded through the crash course of first-time young motherhood. I thought I knew a few things. I didn't. I was clueless. Not Charlotte. She knew it all. Babies, mothering, homemaking, cooking, baking, sewing, entertaining. She was good at it. And she knew how to make it fun. She taught me everything I ultimately knew about making a home for a family. She built my confidence at every turn. Looking back, I think I clung to her like a life raft, and I hoped she would never leave me. And Charlotte had something very few newly married female college students, wives, had in the early 60s, a car of her own. She had a VW Bug that ran mostly. And when it did, it gave the two of us the freedom to get out of the house and have some kind of adventure with our little boys. Go to a park, go to the beach, explore Knott's Berry Farm, free admission in those days. Please note, our adventures were all free. We didn't have much spending money. No one did. Our husbands were teachers. We were living on one income. Because of Charlotte and her bug, we had a great time. And along the way, Charlotte taught me the finer points of homemaking and being at home with our young children during those early years. And then Charlotte and her family moved to Orange. To keep our friendship going, I had to learn to drive freeways, which until then I'd managed to avoid. I found them terrifying and confusing. And once again, Charlotte helped me with my growing up. By then, I had an old clunker of my own, so I could get around. Charlotte and I had so much fun together. We enjoyed all the same things. We laughed at the same ridiculous behavior. We were outraged by the same bad behavior. We loved anything with hearts on it, and hearts on fabric or greeting cards were rare in those days. We served together as Y-Teen advisors to a group of junior high girls in La Verne for 1 year. After Charlotte moved to Orange, we took all kinds of night classes just to get out of the house and see each other one evening a week. Various sewing classes, cake decorating, etc. We laughed till we fell down at the cake decorating class. Crisco icing everywhere, yuck. I wasn't good at it, didn't take it seriously, and discovered my family didn't really like cake all that much. But Charlotte loved it and was good at it and took cake decorating to a whole other level and ended up doing cakes for all her friends and neighbors for their birthdays and other special days, and for money. She did the same with the sewing classes and managed to leverage her very fine seamstress skills into a full-time job at a popular fabric store where she would make samples for the display windows. Amazingly beautiful, intricate, detailed works of art. I still have some of the stuffed animals she made as gifts. She was getting paid to do something she loved, sewing. And of course, she was very good with people, so the customers loved her. Charlotte even took an upholstery class. I went with her one night and marveled at the way she hauled that big old overstuffed chair in and out of the locker and hauled it around on the dolly and then stretched fabric and hammered nails for an hour. Not me, too much work. But after that, I never minded paying an upholsterer to redo a chair or sofa. It was worth every penny. Whatever Charlotte Neill decided to do, she did it well, with excellence and precision. She followed directions to the letter, and as well, she had an innate sense of direction, the best I've ever seen in a man or a woman. You never got lost if you were with Charlotte Neill, even in a foreign country, even in the dark. It would have been easy to not take Charlotte seriously. She was little, very cute and giggly, but she actually had great depth and that inborn common sense kind of wisdom that some people just have. If I had a problem, she would say, "My grandmother always said," and proceed to give me her grandmother's wisdom that always worked. Or she would say, "Try this," and go on to tell or show me what she did, and it worked and made perfect sense. Why didn't I think of that? While Charlotte and her family were living in Lexington, Kentucky, I gave birth to our daughter, Molly. This was the first pregnancy and birth without Charlotte by my side. I missed her, and I wanted her to meet my baby girl and see that she was real. When Molly was 4 months old, we flew to Kentucky for a week-long visit with Charlotte and the family. It's kind of ironic that our daughter, Molly Calkins, a woman who trains racehorses, attends the annual Retired Racehorse Project in Lexington, Kentucky every year. I wonder what Charlotte would say. All I know is that I loved Charlotte, and I'm grateful for all the years of her friendship, the tricks and tips and family wisdom she shared with me over our many years together. And every time I solve a problem the way she suggested, I smile and say her name. I believe that if you say the name of the beloved person who has died, they're never really gone. They are still right there with us, living in our hearts.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Dina, for sharing those memories and reading the thoughts from others. As we continue to reflect on Charlotte's life, is there anyone here who would like to come and share a brief story or memory of how she touched you? I invite you to come forward to the mic, or if you're unable to do so, we can bring a microphone to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I thought I would, I guess, point out to everybody here that probably I have known Charlotte probably longer than anybody in this room. And I'm here with some friends. We all went to school together at Clark Junior High School in La Crescenta, California, and that's where we all met. And I think I was Charlotte's first boyfriend. We had a group that, little social circle that we had, and the thing in those days was to go steady. So we would, the boys would give a ring, to the girl would wear the ring around her neck, and I think our going steady maybe lasted 2 weeks, and it was sort of a musical chairs kind of thing. We would go steady with one girl, and the girls would go steady with, one guy for a little while, and then they'd kind of move on to the next one, and so that was kind of our relationship in those days. But I got to know Charlotte very well. I knew her parents. Her parents were lovely people. Her mother was, I think, probably Charlotte's role model because she had the same sort of welcoming personality. She worked at Penny's department store down in Montrose, and I used to see her down there, and every time we'd come, we'd encounter each other, she would always want to talk and tell me what was going on with the family and all of that, even after I was her ex-boyfriend. So she was really a nice gal. We went on to high school together. We knew each other there, and then after high school, we all kind of drifted apart. And then I can't remember what year it was, but one of our classmates decided that we should have a junior high school reunion, which we all kind of rolled our eyes at first, but it turned out to be one of the best school reunions we ever had. I guess because it was the time of our life when, things were changing. We were all 13, 14 years old, and I don't know, it just was a real hit. And as a consequence of that, another of our schoolmates decided to form a little birthday club where a group of us would meet once a month, and that's where I saw Charlotte again, because she was part of that group. So I met her, I met her husband, Bill, who was a great guy. We did, I don't know, that went on for years, 10 years probably at least, and Charlotte got involved with some of the people that were kind of tangential to that. She went into the antique business with a friend and that sort of thing, and we would gather at her house once in a while. Again, she was a party person. She liked to have people around, and she was a very gracious host, great cook, and she had this little dollhouse in La Verne, just down the street, that was, I guess it was a historical building or something, but especially at Christmas time, it would all be decorated. I mean, it looked like a department store or something. She had so much stuff. And she would have us all for dinner, and it was always a good time, to be with her and have all of those friends that we'd had for years together. I kept in touch with her, through these last few years, which were very difficult for her. And yeah, I have very, very loving memories of her. So I guess that's it.
My aunt, and I just wanted to say a few words on behalf of the other side of the Neill family. My dad, Miles Neill, and Bill Neill were brothers, and you know, all these words about welcoming and warmth. You know, we would have Thanksgiving and Christmases at each other's houses, but when they lived in Mission Viejo and in La Verne, just the warmth inside the house when you would go and have meals, family together, just the love of family. I think both Bill and Charlotte it's just really hard to state how many core memories. And I won't talk about the mashed potatoes, which got thrown around occasionally, or was it sweet potatoes? Anyways, something else, you know, Bill and Charlotte were very adventurous. I mean, yeah, they went off to Kentucky. We actually drove out there and visited them. The other thing that they did, which kind of, even at the age of maybe 10 or 11 years old, is they spent an entire semester on a boat, on a cruise ship, semester at sea. And I just thought about, wrangling 2 kids and a bunch of college students on a cruise ship for, I don't know, was it 6 months or something? It was pretty epic, and I was just always kind of blown away at what it would take to do something like that. So yeah, on behalf of this side of the family, the last little thing, this last summer, I had opportunity to go down to Escondido and have a chance to visit with her for a little while, along with Roger, Tom, and Christine. And it was, even though she was not in a place that she was particularly fond of, you could tell, her knee was messed up. She was, but the grit of she stood up. It was like the first time she'd stood up on her own. And even though she clearly this was not her favorite thing to be doing, she was concerned about how I was doing. Are you okay? You comfortable? She made me the same Aunt Charlotte, who always made me feel comfortable and at home, was doing that even in a place that wasn't really her home, that she didn't want to be. And so those are the kind of memories that stay with us, and just that through line of strong, loving family, and that was Aunt Charlotte. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
It's on? Okay, now
Go
you
ahead.
can hear me. All right. I'm Carolyn, and I am here amongst a few other neighbors I see here as well, just to pay tribute to what an amazing neighbor Charlotte was to all of us. She's always warm and sweet, and as you've all mentioned, concerned about what's going on with you. An excellent listener, as well as contributor to the conversation and the connection. And it was common to walk by her house and she'd be out in the garden, talk about her animals, the grandkids. She's just a very special person. Just wanted to acknowledge what she meant to us in the neighborhood.
Oh. I was a neighbor. We moved from Connecticut in 1990 to La Verne, and at that time I had 2 boys, and my youngest was 4, and we would walk. We live on the opposite corner of Charlotte, on the same side of the street, and Charlotte and Bill, and there used to be mounds of dirt that my young son Alexander, now 39, was so overjoyed with. And every time we walked by that house, out came Bill and Charlotte and have a conversation with Alexander. Years down the road, when Charlotte had moved to the house on 3rd, way down at the other end, she reminded me of these times, and she always said, "Yep, Alexander always said, I love dirt." She told me many, many things that have stuck with me all through my life. We had some good visits before she moved, and like somebody said, they're always here when we love them, and that's how I feel about her. I wore this peacock dress today for her because I don't know if I dreamed it or somebody said somewhere, wear something bright. I wore this to a funeral for her. And I didn't know she loved shoes, but I wore a pair of shoes I've had for 30 years that didn't stay on my feet because they're too wide at the ankle. I have a narrow ankle or heel. And so hearing that just made me laugh, and laughter's a good thing. Anyway, that's all. That's it.
May these memories continue to be seeds that nurture and grow in your spirit and bring warmth and laughter and joy to you as you think on Charlotte's life. Thank you for your sharing.
I invite you to hear these words from the book of Psalms, words that reflect the joy and warmth that mark Charlotte's life. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into God's presence with singing. Know that the Lord is God. It is God who made us, and we are God's. We are God's people and the sheep of God's pasture. Enter God's gates with thanksgiving and courts with praise. Give thanks to God. Bless God's name. For the Lord is good. God's steadfast love endures forever, and God's faithfulness to all generations.
Maybe I should take my glasses off. No, better yet, I'm going to need them to read. Thank you, Roger and Tom, for the conversations that we had leading up to planning and coordinating this service. What stuck with me in our conversations that we had is that you described your mom as bubbly and joyful, and that image stuck with me. And then as I looked at the photos that are on the photo board and the photos that you will see momentarily, she has this endearing smile that draws you in. And with those images was what led me to selecting Psalm 100 for our reading today and what guided my thoughts about Charlotte. Charlotte had an irresistible and joyous spirit. She was bubbly, positive, and a loving person whose presence felt like sunshine breaking through a cloud. She would light up a room with her beautiful smile, her laughter echoing like a song of joy. She knew how to be present, available to talk, to listen, and to simply be with you. There was a brightness about her, an ease and a grace that made others feel at ease and seen and valued. Her joy was steady, genuine, and deeply rooted in love. Throughout Scripture, we find a call to joy numerous times. Paul writes in Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, "Rejoice in the Lord always," and again, I say rejoice. And Jesus proclaims in John's Gospel, the 15th chapter, verse 11, "I have told you these things so that my joy may be in you and your joy complete." And Psalm 100 calls us to make a joyful noise to the Lord. The message in these texts is about living with a spirit that says yes to life, yes to beauty, yes to compassion, yes to hope. Whenever and wherever joy is expressed, it is an echo of God's joy within us. And Charlotte reflected the kind of joy called for in Psalm 100. Make a joyful noise to the Lord. Whether it was in relationships, care for family, for gardening, for neighbors. There was a joy and presence about Charlotte. In this text from the psalmist, the writer encourages us to turn up the volume of gratitude and praise. The psalmist invites us to shout, to worship, to enter, to praise, and to bless. And each of these action words moves one's heart toward joy. Charlotte lived these verbs. As I listen to Roger and Tom sharing, as I listen to friends and to you, I'm convinced that Charlotte's life was a living song, a melody of thanksgiving and joy and love and welcome. In a moment, Sean is going to sing for us, "Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, Lord of love." Through the words and music of this hymn, we join a chorus that stretches across generations. For the hymn writer reminds us that joy is not only felt, but it's shared. It's relationship. It's the laughter around a table, the kindness that turns strangers into friends. It's the rhythm of grace that lifts weary hearts. This is the same joy that Charlotte embodied in the way she lived and related to others. At the end of the first verse, there's this beautiful image. "Giver of immortal gladness, fill us with the light of day." Fill us with the light of day. Charlotte's life reflected that light. She embodied joy and gladness, and that didn't fade. A brightness and a warmth that made spaces that were dark friendly again. She carried the light of day into the lives of others, illuminating ordinary moments with extraordinary love, filling you with joy and hope. Today we give thanks for Charlotte's life, a life that echoed and sang, "Joyful, joyful, we adore thee." And it was not just in words, but in the way that she lived, with open arms, a generous spirit, and a heart tuned to the music of love and joy. May the light of her joy in life never burn out. Let us bask in the moment in the light of Charlotte's life and joy. I invite you to turn your attention to the screens for a special photo tribute.
And now to close, one more song of Joy and Flowers and Blooms, 71 if you'd like to sing along, and we'll do 1, 2, and 4.
Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before thee, praising thee, their Son above. Melt the clouds of sin and sadness, drive the dark of doubt away. Giver of immortal gladness, fill us with the light of day. All thy works with joy surround thee, earth and heaven reflect thy rays. Stars and angels sing around thee, center of unbroken praise. Field and forest, vale and mountain, booming meadow, flashing sea, chanting bird and flowing fountain, call us to rejoice in thee. Mortals join the mighty chorus, which the morning stars began. Love divine is reigning o'er us, leading us with mercy's hand. Ever singing, marching onward, victors in the midst of strife. Joyful music lifts us onward in the triumph song of life.
As we leave this place, go forth in joy and peace, carrying love's light into the world. And may your life, like Charlotte's, be a song of gratitude and grace that unfolds like flowers, opening to the sun above. On behalf of the family, thank you for your presence here today, for the love and support that you have shown them and that you will continue to show. And I invite you to join them on the courtyard for a reception of cookies and beverages. So please join us, an opportunity to continue to share in the joy and love that you hold for Charlotte.